Say cheese.
Say cheese.
Wombat.
So you're Kathleen Dreier,
Yes.
and you are a photographer.
Yes.
You own a company called Essence Photography,
Yes.
and you're also a custom perfume.
Yes.
And that's Essence Perfume, or Essence.com.
Essence.com. Or Essence Custom Fragrance.
Okay. And then, in addition, you're a social worker
Yes.
in Tucson.
Yes.
So the photography and the perfume, that's your passion.
I would say the photography has become my passion.
Okay. And how long have you done that?
For about 8 years now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about the perfume?
The fragrances I've been doing for close to 22 years now.
Okay.
So I started that in 1991.
So the photography, you can just go out and shoot a picture, but you also get assignments for sporting events, I guess weddings. I mean, you've shot my dad and stepmom's wedding, where I was at in 2009.
I photograph any conceivable event related to people. So, I get all different types of requests. So I photograph sporting events, particularly cycling, lots of weddings, musicians, live performance, or studio work. Or
Like my dad, for instance, that's how you got
Yes.
to know him, because he was
Yes.
performing, and you met his producer, Eric Heithaus,
Right.
went to see my dad at, I think, a full moon event or something,
Yes.
and got to know him.
Yes, exactly. And so when you mentioned how you have to write every day, and I'm one of those people that I have to photograph people every day. It's just it's become part of who I am. And so what I've done today, for example, my son has his buddy visiting from DC, and I just photographed them naturally doing what they're doing. So my work is really photojournalistic in nature. It is not canned. To me, the true beauty is capturing somebody doing what they naturally do rather than posing them. I enter their world. I don't expect them to enter mine.
Yeah.
And like tomorrow morning, one of the things that I'm going to be doing is I came across this fella up on a corner, and he is dressed all in white and has a white hat on and like a towel that's in white to probably block himself from the sun, and like kind of like a white strip over his nose. He has a sign that says, "I'm Poem Guy, $1 for a poem." And so I paid him $1, and amongst the poems that he handed me were a variety of different poems from known authors, Emerson and things like that. There's a sheet of paper that said, who he was and that he was looking for work. And I thought it was ingenious how he was giving something out in order to receive a single dollar as well as market himself. And so I emailed him, and I introduced myself, and I said that I'd like to come out and just photograph him. And he says, "Well, I'm in a public place. I can't stop you from photographing me." And I said, "Well, I'd like to learn a little bit more about your story, and I would post it on Facebook, and maybe somebody will hire you, need to hire you for something." So that's an example of something that I felt very drawn to do. So I do a lot of volunteer photography too. With another gentleman, we go out and we meet with young homeless adults, and he videotapes their story, and I do the still photography, and I learn about who they are. And as I mentioned before, everybody has a story.
Yeah.
People have so much to them that make them who they are, and I find that very fascinating, and I document it. And it can be just really kind of very sad and sweet things too. I had a friend whose mother had dementia that developed, and over the course of 2 years, whenever I would go down to visit them, I would photograph them and their mother. And so I was directly and indirectly chronicling the last couple of years of her life, and how her changing condition impacted the family. So those are just some examples.
Well, you're establishing a real human connection there, just to
Yes.
the camera.
Yes, yes, that's exactly right.
And so then with the perfume business, you've been doing that a bit longer, and that's
Yeah,
a very
lot
intuitive
longer.
process. Custom fragrances, you get orders over the internet,
Yes.
and you learn about a person's history, the way they want to, the perfect fragrance to fit a person, and then you just do it.
Right, right. And I also work with people by appointment, if they're local or if they're passing through, or I'm invited to do events. So the last big event that I did was I was an accessory to a 25th anniversary fashion show for a modeling agency up in Scottsdale, and that's a whole story unto itself. It was a very magical and spiritual night that my dad died, and how doing the custom fragrancing for strangers while in the process of my dad dying was extraordinary. And that's a whole long story.
Yeah.
Just so you folks know, if you want anything else from the bars, 10 more minutes.
Okay,
Okay,
thanks.
thank you. So I do meet with people. Some people now just will come to my home. But 95% of what I do is over the internet. People find me. I have clients all over the world, and I'll have communications with them through email or through phone, getting to know them, or who they're having me create a fragrance for. And it is largely an intuitive art form. I even get businesses contacting me to create a fragrance that resonates with the business. So I've had, believe it or not, authors. I've created fragrances based upon characters in books that the author has put along with their book to people who run, healthcare lines or skincare lines, to even a real estate agent. I created a fragrance for his business. So it's
Wow. Well, so this is an intuitive process that you seem to have cultivated along with your spiritual path. Because you mentioned spirituality earlier, and you've been involved in the Gurdjieff Fourth Way School, or the Sufi school, I think.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you can't really name a school by a particular name, right?
Yeah.
But yes, I've been involved in spiritual practices that I've been very conscious of since my late 20s. So the better part of 25, close to 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And this entail you joined a formal school 25 years ago,
one has to define what joining is, right? So which is probably a longer conversation than what we have time for. Let's just put it this way. I think I'm a good guest. I know I have friends in many different types of spiritual communities. I am very drawn to the common lines between different spiritual practices and using different tools to be either awakening, but more importantly to be a better version of myself so I can actually serve people better. And so, and that all tied in with my businesses and my job are all things that are related to service. So
social work, perfuming, and photography are all instruments of helping other people to awaken, in a sense.
well, if I use those as tools in the right way, right? If my ego is not part of that process, and that I have a clean orientation and intention when I'm interacting with anyone, So
it's more about self-direction, self-purification than the side effect, than is the pure intention for other people.
I would say that it goes hand in hand.
Okay.
I mean, I think if one is coming from a place of intent and as well as recognizing what their strength is. It took me a long time to even recognize what my gift is, to give people, and then to also recognize that there isn't an arrogance in it. There's actually a humility in it if one has the right perspective. And where am I going with that? I guess it just gets back to what it is about one's intention. You know, I think I mentioned this to you the last time. If I am really like hard pressed, like I really need to make a buck, gosh, I hope I get a photo gig. Oh, I hope an order comes in today. My ability to do the work isn't as pure, and it doesn't come from an authentic place. And I find the more that I surrender and trust that the universe is going to bring me what I need to support my family, then things, people come to me asking for my service. So there is part of my spiritual practice is learning how to not clutch or cling or beg or get desperate, but just kind of have this act of surrender. You know, a perfect example of that, I'm reminded all the time that I'm taken care of, right? I'm raising funds right now for a second camera body, and I've been working hard at it, and I've been, about 30 people so far have donated, plus my own photography gigs. And so I put up a post recently, and a gentleman contacted me, and he said, well, I want to pay the rest off that you're asking for. And I said, well, I'm actually I need more than what I have posted, but I don't want to change the amount because I don't want to be inconsistent. This is a long story, but I'm really having car problems, and I'm trying to get myself into a position where I don't want to dip into that money because people have entrusted me and I have no intent of using that. And I don't know, I was going into some personal story, and he contacts me and he says, he gave me a check. He gave me a check for $700. He says, please, you know, I was going to use my personal camera savings money, not the donated money from people. But he said, I don't want you to do that. Let me give you a check. I owed $700 on a very old car. It's like 1999, but it's something just to get me by, right? Until I can afford, right? And it's like, holy cow! Wow, this person, you know, the universe just opened up his heart to give me this gift of money, but it's a circle of life sort of thing. Like, this is a gentleman that I've photographed many times. I've given him many photographs before, and he just said, you know, I have an upcoming performance coming up where he's an actor, and you photograph him. It's like, yeah, hello, yeah, absolutely. You know, there's nothing. I'm learning now that there's a reciprocity that if you don't expect it, but if you're serving the world takes care. If you're serving the universe takes care of you. Yeah.
Well, that seems to be
That's absolutely right. I lived that for a year in Vincent.
Yeah. Did you?
The universe I was living in a railroad top.
Yeah.
I mean, the universe takes care of you.
Yeah.
You know, and that's absolutely correct.
Yeah.
It's so funny to hear you say that, because I lived that for a year.
Yeah.
And that's true.
I've been reminded, I always forget that the universe takes care of me, and then I'm always reminded that the universe takes care of me. And I'm just like, thank you. You know, like just recently I was just, again, just really, you know, finances aren't that great. And you know, I'm determined I will not dip into my camera money. That is sacred, entrusted money. Yeah. And so hey Kathleen, my mom referred me to you. We're getting married in April, and we have to have you as our photographer. I'm like, Really? So I sat down and met with them yesterday, and it was like, it's those surprises. Those surprises are like the universe's way of just playing with you, going, you know, and it's delightful, you know, right? It's just like, it's great. It's like, you know, and learning gratitude. You're just learning gratitude over and over again. Thank you, thank you, thank you, you know, for, and so I'll walk around like, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well, that is, I think, the paradox of survival, because when you go into survival mode, it becomes harder to survive because you're putting out these vibes that say, I'm going to use you to help me survive. But when you surrender, suddenly everyone starts helping you to survive.
Right.
And the law of reciprocity, I think, is the basic law of human nature, as well as the law of acceptance and the law of attraction. The
law of attraction, right. It's like if we keep saying, you know, man, I really need I really need more money. I really need more money. And what you're actually really attracting is, no. I need to rephrase it. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough money. What one is really attracting is a lot more of not enough money.
Yeah.
And you know, that's just an example.
So you've learned to have pure intent and then to be just giving of yourself and surrendering to your life path, and you get rewarded for that.
It's finally growing up to recognize that one has something to contribute, and that everybody has their unique gifts that they bring to the world. So in that sense, there does not need to be competition. Mm-hmm. You know, like you're inspiring people through interviewing them and writing books and being able to find the synthesis of things. You know, you have an editor and a musician and your mother and Lord knows whatever other stuff that you do. And you do electronics and solar, and it's like, and everybody's making the world, you know, just in this little microcosm of 4 people, we're all doing something that serves something bigger than us, and we're drawn to do it. And I mean, if I spent my time saying, oh, I'm not a good photographer, I'm like not owning who I am. Yeah. But I'm now 53. It's taken me a long time to own myself. I mean, I think you've owned yourself at a much younger age than I have. Not really. Today I was talking to a friend of mine, and I said for the first time, for those people who are very brilliant like me, and I caught myself and I said, I have not said that in 20 years. Because I just didn't think of myself as brilliant in any way. Yeah. And I had to work to prove myself. And it's sort of dawning on me that maybe I am a bit different than other people. Just my ability to absorb information, produce it, synthesize it, connect it. And I'm just not owning it. Yeah. Because I've met people like you who just think that the books I've written are pretty impressive. I know. So we are... I mean, we could talk about this for a long time. Yeah. So. But, as you said, we don't have that much time, and it's time for this to stop. Thank you very much. Thank you. We'll talk again. We will talk again.